Every journey begins with a single step. Centuries ago, thousands of Africans were forced to walk a path they never chose. Today, we retrace that journey from Assin Manso to Elmina Castle to uncover the evidence, memories, and stories that continue to shape our understanding of the transatlantic slave trade. To understand where this journey ended, we must return to where its final march began.
Long before the Atlantic Ocean came into view, thousands of enslaved Africans passed through this quiet town. Today, archaeology,
memorials, oral tradition, and historical records
help us understand what happened here.
You basically walk up to the Ancestral Route of Ghana. You are at a place called Assin Manso, which was once upon a time a slave market. Now my name is Kofi Amini, and I'm going to be your guide. But before we even start with the talk, we will be observing a minute of silence for all our brothers and sisters who lost their lives during the trade on the Middle Passage, through segregation, through discrimination, and even through police brutality. After which I would say, may the souls of our ancestors rest in perfect peace. And all of us here will be responding by saying, Ashe. Ashe simply means, may it come to pass. So if you don't mind, a minute of silence will do. Thank you. May the souls of the enslaved Africans rest in perfect peace. Ashe.
Ashe.
Now, according to a Ghanaian historian, in the person of Professor Akosua Adoma Pebi, in a book entitled The History of the Indigenous Slavery in Ghana, from the 15th century to the 19th century, she made mention Ghana to have had 63 slave markets. She gave names of some few markets, like Manso, Salaga, Jenejeni, Kachi. But with all these markets, she made mention of two markets to have played the most important role. She spoke about the largest market in West Africa, and she spoke about the busiest market in West Africa. Now, both the largest market and the busiest market were all found here in Ghana. The largest market was found at the northern part of our country, and the name for that market was Salaga Slave Market. The second largest market, we became the busiest, is where we are now, Assin Manso. Now the distance from Salaga to Assin Manso was 400 miles. So those that were captured, they were supposed to walk in chains and in shackles. They barely eat, they barely drink, barefooted and half naked. They were supposed to walk. Some were even captured along the borders of Burkina Faso. So they have to walk to Assin Manso. So when they landed here at this market, the market goes all the way to the community, but development has catch up. But the reason why this area has been confined is because this place was identified to have been a slave cemetery within the slave market. So from the end of the grass, all the way down the river, we are all standing on the remains of the enslaved. It was estimated that 1.73 million of them came to this market. It was only 600,000 survived, and we have 980,000 died and buried right here on the stand. And this data could be found at Sculpture Park in Alabama. So that was when you were coming through the main gate. The gate itself had been shut. So almost all of you entered like this. Yes, unconsciously, you've already paid no respect before you enter. When they landed here at this market, This was when they were properly fed, not out of compassion, but just to give them a little flesh so they could sell them. Broken bottles and sharp objects were used to get rid of their grave before they were made to walk down the river in order for them to take their last bath. At the riverside, they were sold. At the riverside, they were branded. But those that could not continue the journey, they decided to wait. And they have waited for us on this land for 600 years now. So today, as we stand on earth, what can we say to the energies? May the spirits of our ancestors rest in peace. Now from this market, they thought their pains was over, not knowing from here they will go to dungeons, and that will be your next destination. Now when you go to the dungeons, the enslaved Africans were kept in the dungeons for 3 months, awaiting the return of the slave ship. In 3 months' time, the slave ship arrived. It is time for them to go away, or to be taken to the new world. But before they could go onto the slave ship, there was a particular door that they all crossed. And the name on this door is the door of no return. That door was self-explanatory. The door was simply telling us that the time has come for you to cross me, and when you cross me, you're not going to come back again. So that door of no return stayed with us for over 375 years. But in 1996, that door of no return was to be changed to the door of return. But how did that came to be? It all started when a prisoner of Staples said he has had a dream, and he has seen so many of the enslaved standing behind the door of no return, always knocking on that door for that door to be opened up for them to enter. So he asked about it and told him that before that door could be opened, then we have to bring 2 remains back, one from the West Indies and one from the Americas. So on the 31st day of July 1938, the 2 remains of our ancestors were brought back. And those 2 remains, we have Madame Crystal from Kingston, Jamaica, representing the West Indies. And we have Samuel Castle from New York, New York. Now, Madame Crystal was a young, beautiful lady who was captured, but landed in Jamaica as a slave African. But she never saw herself as a slave. She rather preferred to die than to be called a slave. While she was in prison in Kingston, Jamaica, she was the first female that decided to starve herself to death in order to push for the abolishment of the slave trade. But while she did so, she endured the worst punishment of her life when she had her teeth all chiseled out in an attempt to force her to feed. In 1830, she lost her life. And according to the stories that she was about to say goodbye, the only thing she said was bring me back home someday. I am not sure she knew she would, but somewhere somehow her remains were brought back. Now we have Samuel Castle, the first African American without any formal education, who fought the Joseph-Mexican War in 1846, died in line of action. And the following day, being the 1st of August 1998, the 2 remains were buried right here on this land. So Madame Crystal is the one at the left side, and in the middle is Samuel Castle. The Prime Minister of Barbados, Her Excellency Nia Amomoku, she also excavated most slave cemeteries. All the remains she gathered from Barbados, she brought a beautiful casket on the 11th of November 2018, all the way from Barbados, and that's the 3rd tomb we see over there. Now, immediately after the burial, groups also petitioned that they also wanted to be buried here. So inside this graveyard was given out, and today we have 934 ashes sprinkled right inside this graveyard. Last 2 days, we had the 934 ashes, and you can see it right here. So we have so many of them here. The trade was abolished in 1807, but not slavery. With slavery, I don't know the date. I only know what the book says. That in the US of A, 1865, British colony 1834, French 1846, Brazil 1888. And for me, I don't believe slavery has been abolished. It has maybe evolved into a new form. And today many of us have moved away from slavery, chains and shackles to mental slavery. And that is why Marcus Garvey told us, and formally reiterate, that we should emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, because none other than ourselves can free our minds. Now we're going to make a walk down the river. But before we make that walk down the river, I need to ask a question. It's not rhetorical, I will need answers. Would you want a full experience? We are about to walk on. Now, the name is called the Ancestral Route. It was the exact path that the enslaved Africans took down the river. Thousands of them walked this path. It was only hundreds that returned. The rest were all killed and buried. This land in question is a sacred place. We respect all energies in here. We don't want to come and go with curses. We want them to come and go with blessings. Out of respect for the enslaved that once upon a time walked this path, we always walk on this path with our shoes off. It's a very big river that flows all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. Now, when they brought them in here, they were supposed to take their last bath in this river. But if you check the month that they walked, many of them landed here during the rainy season. So they met the river at its highest peak. When I started working here 11 years ago, sometimes you come over here and you see alligators all around these places. But because of human settlement, they are basically back. And once in a while, we do see them. So which means that it could happen that some of the enslaved whilst taking their last bath in this river basically will be fed up by this wild reptiles. And one part of the river is very stagnant. But if they allow them to bathe from this side of the river, they can easily escape, or many of them can easily drown. So they stop them from bathing from that side of the river, and they only concentrated in washing them from this side of the river. Later they knew that the rivers we are seeing today are two separate rivers. They are not the same river. Now the river from this end is getting its source from the community. And the name of this river became Dongo Insio, literally means the slave river. And the other river, which is getting its source from the Prague River, a name is Ama Emisa. So the actual slave river they took the last bath was this river, but not that river. After they took their last bath, they were sold and branded before they were taken away. Now for us in this community, because this is a male and a female energy, we believe that this river has seen so much. So we are respecting the energies of this river. We respect all. But when people come in here, we don't allow them to touch this river, because when you touch this river, it means your last bath. So just like the door of no return has been changed to the door of return, then the last bath has also been changed to the first bath of return. So if you want to get down the river, you're going to get down the river from this end.
Assin Manso, the slaves were heading to the Elmina Castle, which is one of the Europeans' oldest castles. Behind these walls, thousands of men, women and children were imprisoned before forced onto ships across the Atlantic. Today, this castle stands as a powerful reminder of that painful history and the resilience of those who endured it.
In 1482, they arrived here in 1471, where they spread Christianity. So that time, the system of trade was better, that's exchange of these weapons. So they came along with guns, gunpowder, tobacco, to exchange of gold, ivory, local spices like salt, and local pepper. And because of the abundance of gold that we're getting from this place, they named here Elmina or Amina. And then initially the local name of this place was called Amansa, It means inexhaustible water. In 1500, the attention was being shifted from the gold trade to the slave trade. The Europeans discovered that the American land was fertile, it was good for plantation. So they were using the Native Americans to work. Due to overwork, climatic changes, European diseases such as measles, and the Spanish brutality, some died. So there was the need for them to get other people to replace the Native Americans. And that time there was a priest named Bartholomew de las Casas. He suggested that Africans are much stronger and then we are fought under such climatic conditions before. So they ran an experiment in a sugarcane plantation at Hispaniola, now 80 and Dominican. The results came out that we were 4 times stronger than the Native Americans. So that was when Africans were being taken from their homes to the New World, now America and other countries. They were getting them by force capturing, raiding, kidnapping, theft and deceit, and then butchering. They were getting them from Ghana, Togo, Nigeria, Benin, and other African countries. Around 1637, the Dutch captured the castle from the Portuguese by the help of the local people, and they used it to continue the slave trade. In 1872, the British bought the castle from the Dutch, and they used it as sub-administrative center. That's where they used it to colonize Ghana. Then that doesn't mean that the British involved themselves in the slave trade. They used the Cape Coast Castle to do the slave trade. When they came in, they have already stopped doing that. So they were having different visions, that's colonization. During the Second World War, they brought men from all the West African English-speaking countries except Liberia, trained them here, sent them to India and Burma to fight for them. We call them the Royal West African Frontier Force. And after the Second World War, they turned the castle into a police school around 1948 until Ghana gained their independence in 1957, when they left everything to the leaders of this country. The Portuguese spent 155 years here. The Dutch spent 235. The British spent 85. Ghana is 69 years since independence. So the castle is 544 years. This is the largest, the oldest castle in West Africa. About 1,000 enslaved Africans were kept here at the time. We have 400 females, 600 males. Their staying here will depend on the arrival of the ship. Whether 7 weeks, 8 weeks maximum is 3 months. They built a castle for 2 main reasons. 1, a place for their missionaries to stay. 2, a place to store their goods. But when their attention was being shifted from the gold trade to the slave trade, they turned all the warehouses into a slave dungeon. So inner courtyard, the good. Crossbone, we call it condemned, or the African cell. So why the European cell? Why the condemned cell? Let's compare the 2 cells. So when an European soldier misconduct or misbehave himself, when he go out without permission, when he taking alcohol, they will put that person here. Food and water will be served, and you stay here for only hours, then you'll be out. You can see they have good ventilation. Yes. And the gates is the original one too. So compare this room to the condensed cell. So this is for the Africans, those who try to fight for their freedom. No food, no water here. The metals, they are the original ones, so they will look through to check whether you are still alive or not. If you are dead, they will just come and take your body and throw it into the sea. If you are not, you stay here till you die. That's the reason why they have the sign up there. It means death. We also call this room as a transit room. So this is where all the survived males will pass go to the room of no return. I went into this room, that means we cannot go back to the dungeons again. We are sent to the new world. We have the gate or the door of no return. When they were doing the gold trade, the gate was wider like this. But when their attention was being shifted from the gold trade to the slave trade, they did it smaller like this one. For some reasons, 1 for counting and 2 to control them. So at first the sea was just here. Due to the rotation of the earth, climatic changes, and they also added more sand here to prevent the water from coming back to the castle. So there was a little wooden staircase. Smaller boats will come and pick them from this place and send them to the ships. From there, the suffering will continue. So that's also another episode of suffering. Females got raped when they are still thrown into the sea, and some even threw themselves into the sea to protest against what they were doing, and some survived. And some people brought all these things to pay their last respects. So they didn't come here with their wives. So some of them were using the females to satisfy themselves sexually. Then whenever the governor wants one, because of his position, he will stand up there, order his soldiers to bring all the females out. And he will carefully look and select one that he wants. After that, they will give her some of the reservoir to bath here. Give her some food to eat so that she can gain her strength. And give her something different to cover herself. After that, selected one should pass through the castle. We call this place the secret passage. Straight to the trapdoor, from there to the governor's apartment. And after he's done raping here the same way, that should pass go to a dungeon. Some got pregnant and they built houses for them where the local people stayed. So after delivery, stay with the child 3 years. Then the child will be taken away from you back to the castle to give more formal education. We call those children that have caste or the mysteries. Some call them the mulattoes. That's the reason why we have the white color skin around the coast. And they have European names like Van Dyke, Van der Poel, James Peterson, and others. Some grew up to become their interpreters and their priests. Then the mother will come back to the castle to do as domestic slave. Then some of the females refuse the government's offer. We have a cannonball. It weighs 25 kilograms. They were having about 80 with chains. So they used this one to punish those who were difficult to control. The common one was those who refused the governor's offer. They would chain her to this one. Whether rain or shine, she would stand in. No food, no water for her for 24 hours. They do that to serve as a lesson to those in the dungeons. And then we have some clothes in here. In 2015, some Africans came here to experience what our ancestors went through. They are about 40. They spent 12 hours here. They use all the clothes there to cover themselves. So now we'll go to the largest females dungeon. Fortunately for them, they were here. It leads to a place we call it the magazine, where they store their ammunition. So whenever there is a leakage, the chemicals will come straight to this dungeon to pollute the air, causing some of them to die. So the more that they were breathing the chemicals, the more that they were dying. And as soon as you die, they will just come and take your body and throw it into the sea. So they wanted the strongest among them. So to survive before the treatment that they were going to be there. That's why the stronger one. So now we are going to the top to see the governor's apartment and the Dutch church. Toilets and bath emergency exits, they are in there, the woods are weak. So we have closed that place, it's not safe for us, so we cannot go there. And then we have the governor's closet, this side, close. Okay, so this is officers' mess, where the senior officers were having their food and drink. So it's like their canteen or dining hall. And we have the balcony where the governors make a selection from the female. Then the governor's kitchen. That's Fort St. Jago, built by the Dutch in 1665. So the Dutch built that one for security purposes. They'll fill in military men at the castle and check whether the enemies are come or not. That's the reason why they spent so many years here. They spent 235 years here. Then we have cannons used for defense and protection. The cannonball can travel 3 kilometers. Then 2 moats here, we call them moats. We have inner moat, outer moat. It was being filled with the seawater. The bridge there, we call that one drawbridge. So whenever the enemy tries to enter into the castle, they'll just pick up the drawbridge, they'll fall into the water, and the water will take them away. Then the first pair that are down there, that's instrument to put.
Our journey began at Assin Manso, where countless enslaved Africans took what became known as their last bath. It ends here at Elmina Castle, where many passed through the door of no return, leaving their homeland forever. Today, these places remind us not only of immense suffering, but also of the resilience, courage, and humanity of those who endured it. By preserving sites like these, we ensure that their stories continue to educate, inspire, reflect, and are never forgotten.